Adeoye with the FCT brief. In Akwana, Abuja, the conversation is with you now.
Good morning, Ria. Another beautiful Wednesday morning here in the FCT. And of course, our table is loaded, so sit back and relax while we'll take you on a smooth, jolly ride this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigerians, and welcome to our Wednesday FCT brief. TJ, a new Inspector General of Police.
Yes, well, I must say congratulations to
Nigerians.
Yeah, to
and
Nigerians
to the new man.
And to the new
exactly.
man at the helm of affairs. Of course, we hope to see more reforms from the Nigerian police force. We hope to see more in terms of security. You know, a lot security is at the bedrock of everything that we have in the society. So the new man at the helm of affairs, I think that's a good one.
For me, I think he should face squarely the issue of welfare of the police.
That has been on the table
and
for
ensure
a long
that
while.
it's take a template from the Navy and the Air Force and ensure that they have befitting barracks to live in.
Well, we look forward to, improved security service from the Nigerian police force going forward. Now, let's move into what we have for you today. Today, our focus is on Nigeria's northeast, a region long defined by insurgency, displacement, and humanitarian crisis, but now positioned at the center of a renewed federal push for reconstruction and long-term stability. With President Bola Tinubu promising a shift from intervention to transformation, questions are emerging about what that transition truly means. Is the agenda moving beyond emergency response to sustainable development, economic revival, and institutional rebuilding? For over a decade, the Northeast has relied heavily on military operations and humanitarian interventions to contain the fallout of insecurity. But transformation requires more than relief materials and security deployments. It demands infrastructure, education, resettlement frameworks, private sector investments, and accountable governance.
As federal authorities roll out development plans and coordinate with state governments, Nigerians are watching closely to see whether this agenda can deliver measurable impact and restore confidence in public institutions. To put this discussion in proper perspective and help us understand the strategy, the politics, and the prospects, we are joined by Abubakar Kari, the Chief of Staff to the Gombe State Governor. He will provide insight into how subnational governments are aligning with the federal vision, what progress has been recorded on the ground, and what gaps will remain. It's nice to have you here with us this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a pleasure having you.
Thanks so much. Now, for a very long time, the Northeast, due to the years of insurgency, have been operating majorly on humanitarian economy, interventionist economy by the federal government and all that. Now, what are those specific things that your government in Gombe and the Northeast in general are putting in place to shift the narrative and the perception from an interventionist economy to one that can sustain itself, provide for its people, and also service other regions?
Thank you very much, and good morning once again. The story of the Northeast today is different from what we had 5 years ago. Under President Tinubu, we are moving from intervention and crisis to transformation. The Northeast is now a complete construction site.
Wow.
A complete construction site. And like you said, there's this collaboration and alignment with the subnationals, whereby government is now, we are moving away from that distribution of palliatives, keeping people in IDP camps, to reintegrating people back to the society, returning life back to normal. I'll give you a few examples.
Look.
In terms of critical infrastructure, the Northeast Development Commission, before now, were more or less a palliative distribution agency. That was basically what they were doing. But coming on board of Mr. President, the philosophy, the thinking, the way the Northeast Development Commission is now operating is completely different. They're into roads construction, they're building housing. We are moving people out of the IDP camps to providing proper housing for them under the Renewed Hope Initiative, the Renewed Hope Housing Program, and building hospitals, reintegrating people back to the community, commerce. So the Northeast is now a huge construction site. Life is now back to normal. That is what you have in the Northeast today. And this is courtesy of the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President.
All right, let's take your party in perspective. For instance, the APC came in with a clear promise, which is security and development. Yes. And you said the Northeast is gradually moving from the palliative economy to, construction and all of that. Yes. Looking at the Northeast as it stands today, do you think the reality matches that pledge?
Well, I can confidently tell you that, and I would want to invite you, come to the Northeast, particularly come to Gombe. Come and see what this government, this APC government has done in the Northeast. And it's not about just, talking. We prefer people to come and see for themselves what we have been able to achieve over this period.
So you should be able to tell us what is on ground.
There's almost everything is on ground in terms of healthcare, in terms of education, in terms of critical infrastructure, you name it. Life in the Northeast is completely different from what you had 5 years ago. I can confidently tell you that.
Okay, the Northeast Development Commission you talked about is a federal government intervention agency. Exactly. A lot of times Nigerians say state government receives so much, especially during this administration, receives so much from federation accounts, yes, and they have very little to show. Tell us, the Gombe state government, yes, what are those significant investments that you have put in place that can transform Gombe in the next 4 or 5 years to an El Dorado-like?
Okay, I will be very, very specific. For Gombe, we came in with an agenda of critical areas: education, health, agriculture. That was what we came into. In health, I'm confidently telling you this, and I want you to go and verify. We have 2 functional primary healthcare facilities in each of the 114 political wards in Gombe State. Fully functional, fully equipped with staff and everything. Then we have 3 major hospitals, general hospitals, in the 3 senatorial zones that are fully equipped, fully staffed. And recently, Mr. President graciously accepted and converted one of our general hospitals into a federal medical center. That facility was fully built from the scratch by the state government, fully equipped to international standard, and Her Excellency the First Lady was the one that went and commissioned that hospital. So that is in the area of healthcare. In the area of education, when we came on board in Gombe, the performance of our students, particularly in WAEC, SSE, and what have you, was below 20%. Today, we have a pass mark of over 60-70%. And we did that by going back to the drawing board. We were able to build more schools, classrooms, equip them, and then we built 3 mega colleges, 1 in each of the territorial zones, to cater for this. And that gap that we had, we've been able to reach that. So in terms of education, we are fully, we've been able to achieve what we promised our people. That's in terms of. Then go to infrastructure. I would want to invite you to come to Gombe. I can boldly say there is no state in Nigeria today that you will go and you see what is happening in Gombe. We've been able to transform Gombe from what our late emir used to say, a big village, into a mega city. In terms of road infrastructure, in terms of critical government infrastructure, Gombe does not have a functional state secretariat before we came on board. There's no state house assembly, and there's no judiciary complex. That is what Governor Muhammad Inuaya is putting up now.
All right. Mr. Kari, when we speak to government officials, they usually make reference to development in terms of structural development. Yes. We hardly hear human capital development. You spoke about education earlier. You spoke about healthcare. I didn't hear you talk about industrialization, how you're creating jobs, especially for displaced persons, reintegrating them back into the society to enable them live a comfortable life rather than always relying on government for support. How is Gombe State doing that?
Gombe is doing excellently well on that. What we have done in Gombe is we've been able to establish an industrial park. That industrial park is sited very close to the Dadinkoa Dam, where you have a hydro power plant there. And I don't have the figures yet, but it is a very, very large area whereby, in fact, factories have started setting up there now. And at the end, by the time that place is it's fully functional, there's enough power, the road networks are there. And so far, I think we have about 7-8 factories that have come on board. The former president has a factory, I think Premier Seeds also. They've started production. There are some rice mills there. And we have applications from more than 40, 50 foreign companies that want to come and establish factories there. And the catch there is power. It's very close to the Dadinkoa Dam. So I will say in northern Nigeria now, I don't think there's any state that has an industrial park that is as big and functional like that we have in Gombe in Dadinkoa.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to you, but let's take a quick break now. Don't go anywhere, we'll still have more for you on the program. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thank you for staying with FCT Brief. Now, we're still tracking development in the northeast region, and we still have with us in the studio the Chief of Staff to the Governor of Gombe State, Mr. Abubakar Kari.
Yeah, I would love to talking about development. Precisely, you mentioned Dadinkoa, and I happen to know that area also. And I want to find out, what it used to be an area that has a lot of greenery, rich in agriculture. I remember when the former military president was talking about wheat production. Those were the areas that were leading in irrigation farming, wheat production and all that. In the northeast, is Gombe State looking at becoming the key center for agriculture, not just primary production, processing what you produce to service to make that hub of the northeast, other regions depending on that hub of the northeast?
Yeah, thank you very much. We went on a break. I wanted to really elaborate on we call it the Muhammad Buhari Industrial Park.
Okay.
That's the name of the industrial park that we have there. And the key incentive that made the governor come up with that idea was because of the agricultural potentials of that area. I'm glad you know Dadinkoa very well. It is a very, very rich agricultural land there. And if you remember in those days, it had the veg-fruit factory there where they produce tin tomatoes, the mango juice and what have you. So it's a very, very rich agricultural area, agricultural hub, where any industry you set up there in the agro-allied value chain is going to prosper. And I will tell you one thing that is very key about Gombe. Gombe happens to share borders with all the other 5 states of the northeast. So it's in the middle of the northeast. From Gombe, you can get to all the state capitals of the northeast in maximum 2-3 hours. That is the key. And Gombe has always been the commercial nerve center of the northeast. So the idea of that establishing that industrial park by the governor was to catch up on that particular potential that we have. So it's going to really, really transform not only Gombe, it's going to change the fortunes of the agricultural value chain in northern Nigeria completely.
All right, let's talk about the Northeast. With the federal agencies, state governments, and international donors, all NGOs are operating in the Northeast region. Who is ultimately accountable, for the outcomes?
Well, you know, the way the federal structure is set up in this country, each sector, each subnational, the federal government has its role, it accounts for its own role, the subnationals do, and then the development partners and the other international agencies also do that. So each and every sector, they are accountable for what they are doing. But the key is the subnationals, because they are the ultimate beneficiaries. So the subnationals are really, really going to be accountable for that. Mr. President is there providing all the support. In fact, I can confidently say, in my years in politics, I have not seen a president that has been very, very supportive of the subnationals like the president we have today, President Bola Tinubu.
Okay, let me ask you this, Gombe.
Yes.
If the federal government allocation to the states
Yes.
is no longer available, what are you doing differently to make Gombe independent financially? Talking about to boost your IGR. Look, you've talked about the potentials in Gombe State.
Yes.
But whatever potential that cannot translate into economic benefit,
Yes.
it's not really good for the people. So what are you upscaling differently so that in the next 4 or 5 years, Gombe will not need to wait for federal allocation? They'll be like state like Lagos that does not really need to wait for any federal allocation.
Well, I will not want to lie to you. Gombe might not be able to survive 100% without federal support. If I say this here, I'm not being very honest with you. But there are a lot of steps we are taking in Gombe to see that our internally generated revenue is boosted to the highest potential that we have. And then there are also other areas that we are looking at. Like I told you, Gombe is the commercial nerve center of the Northeast. And there's a lot of economic and commercial activity going on in Gombe. So we are looking inwards into how we can generate revenue. But to say that Gombe to be independent of federal allocation, I don't think in the next 4 or 5 years that will be possible. But the big but there is if the oil exploration in Gombe, in the coal mining area, that comes to fruition, I will confidently tell you Gombe could stand on its own. But in the next 4 or 5 years, I think that will be a little bit difficult.
All right, Mr. Kari, I'm curious to know, how do you prioritize the needs of people in the Northeast? How do you determine who gets what and at what time in terms of roads, healthcare, like you mentioned, education? How do you determine that?
Okay, I will tell you for Gombe, which I'm very conversant and I'm part and parcel of. When we came on board in 2019, immediately after we won the election, Governor Muhammadu Inuhaya commissioned a team of young people to do a needs assessment across the state, across the 114 wards. What they did was they went to each and every ward, interviewed the local community, what are their priorities, what do they really need? And they came up with a report of the needs assessment of each and those locations. And that was what we took off with. So we're able to identify what are the priorities of each location. And that was how we hit the ground running. And that is what we've been able to achieve over the last close to about 7 years now. There is no political ward, no community in Gombe State that the government of Muhammadu Yunus has not touched positively. That I can tell you confidently.
Okay, let's still stay on this transformation in Gombe State.
Yes.
How are you attracting the private sector? Because earlier on you talked about the juice factory. I don't know if it's still in operation.
No.
What are you doing to bring back the private sector so that not just the government taking action in economic matters, so that the private sector will have confidence to bring in their money. The foreign investors will have confidence to bring in their money to invest because they know they will have value for their investment.
Well, I can say that the Ease of Doing Business Enabling Act Gombe has continuously come tops, I think, for about 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Ease of doing business in this country, Gombe has come tops, and we've received the prize 2-3 years in a row. You can verify that. It's an agency that is independent. They have their indexes, they have their criteria, and the ease of doing business in Gombe is close to about 90-95%. So we are attracting business in Gombe.
So give us some of those specifics about the ease of doing business. Is it access to land, whatever?
Access to land. We give concessions on so many things like tax and what have you. So there are a lot of incentives that we give anybody that is coming to establish it, like the industrial park I told you now. If you apply for a piece of land in the industrial park today, you submit your papers. When we do our assessment, within less than a month, the governor will give you an approval with your COO. And we give tax breaks for these companies to come establish. So there are a lot of incentives that we give. And we recently have the Investment Promotion Agency, which we established about a year or two ago, that is, strategically situated to handle that. So this coming first in ease of doing business did not just come like that. It is through hard work and policies and incentives that will be given to the private sector.
All right, Mr. Kari, Nigeria is approaching another major election cycle in 2027,
yes.
And Nigerians will be assessing, the APC government in general. What would you say that, especially for those in the Northeast, what would you say is that unique selling point that may, convince Nigerians to see APC as another viable party, to return in 2027?
Well, first and foremost, there's no alternative to the APC.
How so?
There's no alternative to the APC.
Why do you say
yes,
so?
I'm a politician. Let's look at the figures are there. The facts are there. There is no viable opposition to face us in the elections in 2027. And our records are there. You see, our president came at a very, very difficult time. And we have to be very honest. We've been living a lie in this country for too long. And God in his wisdom brought us a president that is able to take difficult decisions, that is able to confront the challenges that we have, that is not ready to whitewash. And we could see, things were difficult at the beginning. There was hardship, but things are getting better, and things are much, much better, and we are back on track.
Now, closely tied to the security issue, the president just appointed a new IGP, and the police is critical in ensuring that we have a secured environment and all that. Yes. Now, what are those immediate things you will expect that this new IGP will do for the Northeast, will do for Gombe State, do for Nigeria?
Well, for Nigeria first, because Nigeria first before any other, I think he should be able to do better than his predecessor, particularly on the issue of welfare of the police. I think that is a very, very critical area that they should look at. And most importantly, with the decision and order of the president that all policemen should be withdrawn from VIPs and deployed to the crisis-ridden area where we have insecurity, I think that should be followed to a logical conclusion. For Gombe, we thank God, I think a day or two ago, the statistics that came out from StatisSense, Gombe was one of the most secured, I think the most secured state in Nigeria. That is by the grace of God, and also the efforts of our governor, and also the security agencies and our traditional institutions, which we've been able to build a very, very robust security management architecture in Gombe. But I think the new IG should be able to do much, much better, and we should be able to have a better and more secure Nigeria.
But aside looking at the federal level in terms of security, which is protecting lives of property, what is the state government uniquely doing to secure lives? You just mentioned that Gombe is one of the safest in the northeast,
yes.
But daily we see threats of, insecurity in the northeast region. Yes. What is your governor doing that probably other governors can emulate to keep their states safe?
It's what we do in Gombe is the community security architecture that we have. What we have in Gombe is we have involved the traditional institutions, right from the village head, the ward heads, up to the district heads and the emirs. They write weekly reports on activities in their domains and send to the local government chairman. The local government chairman forward that to the state government, and this is shared with the head of the security agencies. And we try as much as possible to have regular meetings of the Security Council. Okay. So that has really, really helped us, because involving the community and the community leaders in terms of security, that has really helped us in Gombe.
Oh. Okay, Mr. President, for the opportune time, called on states that, look, we have to have state police. Can Gombe State lead and champion other states, especially in the north, to swing into action and ensure that this dream of state police materialize this year?
We have already started that. We are on course. I will tell you, we've started the preliminary recruitment, and we've reached out to the various security agencies to come in, collaborate with us for the assessment, then the examination of the potential candidates before we now move into the next stage of training and then recruitment.
But that's not been legislated. The Constitution has not been amended.
No. What we are trying to do now is we want to start doing the groundwork before, because this takes it's a very, very serious and tedious exercise, and you really get your acts right. You do not just wake up in the morning and just bring in people and say you've recruited them to be security personnel. Like, we have the local Gombe State traffic and environmental security and traffic environmental, we call them GOSTEC. Okay. And they are there to support what the security agencies are doing. And that has also really helped us. So this GOSTEC that we have is going to be like the backdrop of what we are going to build on. And then by the time the legislation comes, I think we should be able to hit the ground running. And like you said, Gombe will be among the first that will have a state police. All
right, on a final note, in your own words, would you say that Gombe State, especially the Northeast in this regard, is building a solid foundation for development, or would you say it's just managing a prolonged crisis?
No, we have, I would say we have built a solid foundation for development, because we already have a 10-year development plan for Gombe. We call it DEVAGON, that is Development Agenda for Gombe State. Mm-hmm. And that is a 10-year development plan that cut across all sectors. And it is something that is going to outlive Muhammadu Inuaya, so that the next administration that will come will build on that. And after that, I think by 2030, it would have expired, and then the new administration should now do another 10-year development plan. So for Gombe, we've already done that.
All right, that's where we'll leave our conversation this morning. Mr. Abubakar Kari, it's a pleasure speaking with you this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of our conversation. That's where we'll draw the curtain. We'll now hand you over to Lagos, where Ria and the rest of the team are standing by to continue with the rest of the show.
Thank you so much, Abuja. That was a fantastic conversation. Thank you.